you to pour out your Holy Spirit upon our fractured nation. Heal the divisions that separate us and remove all obstacles from authentic unity. May you guide this great country of ours and lead our citizens to embrace one another as neighbors and fellow countrymen, created in your image and likeness. Give us a fresh opportunity of renewal and true solidarity for the common good of our homeland. May we return to our true identity as a people of faith and charity. Help us to always remain one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Paradiso.
Here.
Commissioner Kirschner.
Here.
Minutes. I'll accept motion to approve the digital audio video recording the previous board session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Kirschner.
Yes.
Commissioner Paradiso.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. All right, administrators report.
I'll give you an update. We got our sales tax in last week. Should be deposited on the 20th, or at least we got the amount, $681,505.05. It's about 16% down from last year. I was on the call last week with CCAO. The OBM has, the Office of Budget Management is giving up preliminary 2021 numbers, just very preliminary. They're looking at like 17% down for non-auto and 17.8% down for auto, 7% down for income tax, which that doesn't really affect us. But at least they're starting to give us some things to shoot for 2021. So I thought I'd mention that. Next week we have budget commission, or they have budget commission at 9 o'clock. I don't have confirmation of the exact number that we are getting for the, it was Senate Bill 310. I think it's 481 now. You know, I've seen estimates about 2 million. So I don't know if we'll get the actual number to be able to have that certified by Budget Commission. If not, hopefully we'll have that number confirmed by the following Budget Commission. So,
Stacey, can I ask a question? I want to make sure I understand.
Sure.
The projections for sales tax next year are down by how much, according to?
They said 17 or 13% non-auto, and then 13.8% for auto. That's statewide.
So this is exacerbated by the fact that these numbers that they're projecting are based on current numbers. Our numbers for the month of June are going to be down 16%. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
And they're projecting that the numbers in 2021 will be 13% less than this base.
13% of the year.
Okay. So, well, my point is 2020 is going to be a very difficult year.
Right.
Significantly less than 2019. And if they're basing their projections off 2020 and not 2019, they're really talking about a 16 and a 13. So they're talking about a 29% decrease from what we had in 2019. Is that correct, or am I not thinking correctly?
That's not how I took it. I took it as, you know, 13% down from the initial 2020 budget, but obviously I can get clarification from CCAO on that.
Okay, because if they're saying the 2021 projections are significantly less than 2020, and they're using 2020 as a base, obviously the base numbers for 2020 are going to be significantly less than 2019.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'd like to have some clarification from them about
Yep.
the logic behind this.
Yep, yep, I can get that. I think that's all I had.
Commissioner reports. Commissioner Paradiso?
Good morning, Commissioner Thomas. Good to see you. Few things. They had an opportunity Tuesday night to visit the village of New Riggle with our engineer, Mark Zimmerman. It was a very productive meeting. We discussed the sewer district, some issues out there. I'd like to commend Mayor Larry Bullion for his leadership in trying to do what's best for the village. There's a long history with the sewer situation out there and high rates, et cetera. And Mark Zimmerman has done a great job in trying to look at this, not only short-term, but long-term. And they basically agreed to move forward with a study that would allow Mark Zimmerman, our engineer, to research the possibility of building a standalone treatment plant or some variation of that in the village, very similar to what Bascom has. And thus, long-term, address the issue of pumping, waste 8+ miles to Fostoria. There's a lot of issues with that. So I just wanted to bring that up. I thought the council members of New Riggle had some very good questions. It was a very good meeting, and this has a lot of momentum and is proceeding. So we'll keep everyone informed there. Also, you mentioned that you would be open to the opportunity of passing the gavel as current president to either Mike or I. I've thought about it a little bit. I'd like to propose for discussion here that Mike take over maybe as early as July 1st, August 1st, whatever you feel, Shayne. And kind of take us through to the end of the year, as you suggested, through all the budget and, that kind of thing. So I guess I'd like to open that up for discussion between the three of us.
Yeah, that works for me. I mean, I think it makes sense. So Mike picks it up July 1st. And
is that a good date for you, Shayne?
yeah, I know it's all, all works for me. I'm going to continue to do my work. I just think it makes sense for one of you to be holding the gavel at this point.
Okay, Mike, I'm vice president, but I think I'd like to see you take over at this point, midterm here, through the end of the year as president.
Yeah, that's fine. We could talk about it again in January, of course, when we do the reorganization. So I appreciate that. And we can, as Shayne said, Shayne's given us a wonderful time of service here, but the projections for budgets and those kind of things, he certainly will be concerned about, but he won't have the same vested interest as we have in it. So that's great. That'll work.
And I want to just say to you, Shayne, as long as I've been a commissioner, you've been president. So I really appreciate your leadership. And I mean this. You run a great meeting. You're prepared. You're always there if I have questions. So I'll miss you in that capacity, but looking forward to the second half of the year with you. So nice job. Really. Thanks.
So if you have any questions second half of the year, just go ahead and ask Shayne, Tony.
Yeah. And now we'll see. We'll work with you now, Mike, as chair.
That works.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Commissioner Kirshner?
Yeah, just two things. First of all, as I think you guys are aware, probably were on the phone call, we had a conversation regarding the DORA, the outdoor refreshment area program on Monday night. And the spirit was full cooperation. It kind of got off track a little bit. But what I wanted to say was, for purpose of this meeting, is that conversations with Mayor Montz and conversations with the President of the Council, Rich Fote, have been extremely positive. There's a real spirit of cooperation and collaboration between the city and the county, and I didn't want to lose that in the translation, because it was more of a conversation than I thought it would be on Monday. I want to thank Jimmy again, as usual, for putting together the language for our cooperation, and I kind of read that over to the city council on Monday night, and I think we're all on the same page now. But because of the back and forth, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we're all on board, and the sense of cooperation and spirit of being congenial with the city council is certainly present. The second thing is, I got to send out some kudos to the Fair Board members. As I have said a couple of times, you know, really the fabric of this community when we get things done is based on the volunteers, right? I was extremely impressed with the Fair Board members, all of which are volunteers, in putting together this fair. If you read the executive order from Governor DeWine, it was almost an invitation to go ahead and put the fair together. I think he really wanted it from the standpoint, especially of the junior fair. All those kids are out there working on projects all year long, and they ought to have a place to showcase them. So my congratulations and my admiration to all those people out there, whether it be harness racing or whether it be the derby or just putting the concessions together on the grounds. They're all working hard. They've got a shorter time frame than I've ever had before to put it together. Just as a reminder, we talked about this more than once, but the fair doesn't begin until July 27th. It's kind of a week later than it usually is. And I don't remember the number. I'll probably be telling you the wrong thing, but I think one of the fourth Fair Board members told me that the fair brings in somewhere in excess of 200,000 visitors to Seneca County during that week. So it's got to be, if not the largest event that happens all year, certainly at the top. So congratulations to those folks. Thank you to those folks for your volunteer time. And we all look forward to our elephant ear and our milkshake, right?
It's great. Fair food.
Yeah, man.
All right. Old business. I don't see any. Stacy, do you want to go ahead and do the new business and then invite our guests in? Are they on the line?
I don't see Amy yet, but I did tell her 10:30, so.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the new business, and then we'll move through and await their arrival.
Okay. I had supplemental appropriations on the agenda, but I do not have any in the system, so we don't have any for this week. I have a resolution setting time, date, and place to receive sealed bids for the 2020 County Road 592 pavement widening resurfacing project. This will be set for 10:15 a.m. on July 2nd here at the Commissioner's office. I have a resolution accepting the 2021 wage scale for the Seneca County Department of Job and Family Services non-bargaining unit employees for 2020. I have a resolution establishing the local coronavirus relief fund, fund number 9019. And then I have a resolution establishing the county's corona relief distribution fund, fund number 1019. I have a resolution authorizing the disposal of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit county-owned property, 2006 Dodge Charger, on behalf of the Seneca County Job and Family Services. They use that towards the purchase of a new van, so the trade-in was $1,000. I have a resolution authorizing The amendment number 3 for the engineering services agreement with Stantec for the acquisition of the Newman property. This was the appropriations the last week. We just had to get the contract back from Derek before we could sign it. So this is the amendment to go along with that. And then I have resolution accepting the request for proposals and entering into contract with Pension Associates for the Seneca County Common Pleas Court Case Management System on behalf of the Seneca County Clerk of Courts. And those are all I have.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the new business?
I will move, and then I have a comment.
I will second.
Okay, discussion. Mike?
Well, my comment will be the same as it was last week regarding contracts. We got a proposal for a contract regarding common police case management. Is that a new contract? Is it something we can live without? What I mean,
I think that's the grant she got through the state. It was $200 and some thousand.
Okay,
So.
All right, understand then. I just wanted to make certain that we're being consistent here with contracts. That's all.
Right. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tony, any discussion?
No, I'm good.
All right. All right, roll call. Nikki?
Commissioner Kirschner,
Yes.
Commissioner Paradiso,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. All right, let's bring in Mike Dittoe, and he can give us an update on what's going on at the state, and then we'll go into public comments and we'll wait for Palmer.
Shayne, I don't see. Oh wait, there he is. There's Mike Dittoe. I will unmute
Okay,
him
he
now.
was on a minute ago.
Yeah, and then he popped out, and there he is.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties there. Thanks for the time this morning. As you referenced earlier, Senate Bill 310 ended up getting folded into House Bill 481 last week. This includes the federal CARES dollars that will be distributed to the counties, I think in pretty short order. As of this morning, I checked, the governor has actually not yet signed the legislation. That's usually a technical proofing stuff that his legal team needs to do and undertake. So that's a pretty big undertaking, but I expect that will be done in short order. The bill contains an emergency clause, so it will take effect immediately. And OBM has indicated to my team that they intend to start distributing funds almost immediately. So once the bill is signed, we are expecting a 7 to 10 day turnaround on the distribution of those funds. As Stacy said earlier, I contacted OBM. They've floated some figures close to $2 million that will be coming to the county, but we'll get that ultimately confirmed once the governor signs the legislation and gets you the exact dollar amount. So that's been a big item. Also, earlier this week, the state auditor Keith Faber unveiled a pretty helpful website for CARES resources specifically aimed at local governments. There's a lot happening out there from a grant perspective, but also from funding through different legislation that's passing and just items that are available. So I've made that available to the commissioners. And if there's anything in there that we can assist with, more research, more help on trying to find the dollars and applying for them, please don't hesitate to ask, because we would be glad to do that. Right now, the Ohio House is out of session until we think at least Labor Day. They may come back to take care of some administrative business before then, but we'll see. The Ohio Senate is in session next week, and they have also agreed to come back 1 week per month during the summer recess. So we expect there will be some legislative activity through the summer months, although we think it'll be minor. And then we'll take a look at what we think is going to be a very, very busy lame duck session in the November and December months. So a lot coming at us here, but the big thing of note, obviously, this upcoming week is the first distribution of the CARES Act money. Any questions on that?
Mike, Dittoe, I got a question. Do you know if the health districts got special funding out of the CARES Act money? In Seneca County, our health district is a joint health district with the municipalities and the county. And so they have their own funding streams and their own board. But, they are not part of our local government funds formula. So I'm if somebody else has found the answer to this, let me know. I'll keep digging, but I just wanted to ask you to see if you had any line of sight, if there was a special carve out for health districts.
I'll actually check into that. That's a great question. Everything I have seen and heard about the CARES Act distribution has largely been geared towards, of course, the counties, but then from there, the municipalities and the townships. So I haven't heard much on the way of health districts. They may be under a separate line item through a big chunk of money that the Ohio Department of Health took from the CARES dollars. So I will dig into that for you and get an answer on that.
Just a follow-up question to that, Mike. When we get the money from the CARES Act and it's dispersed, it's based on the LGF calculation, right?
Correct.
So is the county absolutely obligated to use that same calculation when they disperse the funds to the other political subdivisions?
Yes, I think the formula does set it up that you are largely supposed to distribute that how you would distribute your local government fund dollars. And I will pull down the specific language of the bill to make sure that is correct, but I believe that's right.
Well, let me tell you, my concern is not about not giving somebody what they've got coming. My concern is that, as you know, with the legislation, it has to be used for COVID-related expenses, right?
That's right. Correct.
So let's just say, for example, the city of Fostoria had $10,000 more in expenses than their disbursement would suggest they ought to get, and somebody else had $10,000 less. Is there any wiggle room in order to be able to use all that $2 million, or is it just okay?
No, that's a great question. There is a provision, I believe, in the legislation that says if you don't encumber enough expenses to cover what you would get from the disbursement, that money then goes back to the county, and the county has a little bit of wiggle room as to what they do with those dollars. So if you wanted to disperse into another municipality that had encumbered larger expenses, I think you would have the reign to do that.
Okay, I just wanted to, I didn't know how strict it was going to be as far as the formula goes. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Mike, Dittoe question. I believe I was talking to Stacy about this, but I believe once the money comes, I think October is that date, Mike, where
October 28th, yeah.
Is that it? So if they don't use it by then the money can be reallocated.
Yeah, that's right. That's the big cutoff date that they are telling everybody they need to use the money by, and it can be reallocated. The other, of course, the big date too is all COVID-related expenses need to be accounted for by the end of the calendar year, December 31st, and any non-expended resources would need to be returned essentially to the federal government, but it would go back to OBM, who would return it to the feds.
Go ahead, Mike. Finish up.
Just any other word then about the remaining pool of funds, Mike? I know this is coming. This 350 is all we got coming.
Yeah, so 350 is the allotment that was passed in the recent legislation, and there's about 850 still hanging out there for disbursements to local governments. There is, I would say, candidly, there is growing agitation, for lack of a better word, that the fact that federal guidance has not been distributed to loosen the restrictions on that, because there is such a short window of time that we have to get this money distributed and used. So you've seen in the last week or so, there's been other folks, in addition to members of the congressional delegation, who have stepped in and weighed in on this. But Treasurer Robert Sprague has stepped in and asked the federal government to loosen the restrictions so you can maximize what you use the money for. The governor has said the same thing to the members of the congressional delegation. I think you're seeing that start to step up, because right now there still is no guidance, but there is more than half of the money that still needs to be distributed.
Yeah.
Comment couple comments. So Mike Dittoe, we had Beth on a week or so ago from the health department, and they have really, other than PPP equipment, that kind of thing, they have not received any funding, additional funding from the state. So I think they're in the same boat counties and municipalities are, the various health departments. So we would appreciate some follow up there.
Absolutely.
And Shayne's on top of that. We talked last week about capital budgets. I was with this is more of an FYI for everyone else as well. I was with Mark Zimmerman last night, our county engineer, and the OPWC money, Ohio Public Works Issue 1 money, that has been approved. So that's part of fuel tax and a different funding stream than the general fund. But that's good news back here in Seneca County, that capital money has been approved equal to last year. I mean, it wasn't reduced or anything like that. So that's a good thing.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm privileged to sit on that committee. So as you said, like some of these other, Mike, Fair Board timelines, those kind of thing, we now have to kind of accelerate that a little bit to, get our projects scored and lined up for approval. But that's positive.
Mike Dittoe, I lose track here sometimes. Is 2021 a capital improvement budget or is it an operating budget for the state?
It will be an operating budget, but there is talk that if a capital budget does not get done at the end of this year, which is sort of the tentative plan right now, they may look at doing some things capital related in 2021. But historically, it is just the operating budget.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay.
And one more thing on the to dovetail off what was said on the fair issue. I believe the intention is by the Ohio Department of Agriculture to distribute the $50,000 grant money. That's not the COVID related one, but the other one that was passed in the last operating budget. That should be distributed to the county fair board by the end of the month. That was their target date for doing that, if that hasn't happened already.
Great.
And Attica will get the same amount.
Wow, good. All right.
Good. We'll get back to you.
Thank you, Mike Dittoe, High Bridge Consulting. Do we have other public comments, Jimmy?
I do not see anything in the chat right now. And so there's no unmute all button anymore. So I'm just going to kind of ask everybody. I can go through and unmute or ask everyone to unmute, and we will see if anybody comes forward. It's going to take a minute because there's 30 people in here. Okay, any public comments from anyone? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
Shayne, two things before we get into the next item. I want to congratulate you on your job as chairman, but also one of the things you've done is brought Corbin Height in and kind of accented the youth and the potential that we have in Seneca County. I sure think it would be nice if we could get a program together with the schools. I'm not sure what year, junior or senior year, where we maybe highlight a student, bring them on maybe once a month, once a quarter, tell us what's happening in their school and also, what accomplishments maybe they have. And just to keep some interest in the younger folks in listening to the meetings or attending the meetings or being part of the meetings. So I love the initiative that you took with having Corbin on, and I'd like to kind of continue that. And I'm not sure what form that'll take, but I think we ought to try to do something. And secondly, from a standpoint of changing leadership for the commission, Stacy, I don't know what the statute says to change things in mid-year, whatever. So before we make any motions or do anything, if we can talk to the prosecutor about that, look at the statute to make sure that we're doing things properly.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of a resolution.
Yeah, it probably is, but I don't think that we've done this midterm before. So just want to make sure everything's as it should be.
Okay.
Can we put Tony on a board of revisions mid-year too?
I don't know why. I think it's
I'll do it if now that all the work's done.
All the work's done.
Yeah,
All
that's
the
what I mean. I
hearings
think
are
that'll
done.
take over.
2021, here you come.
You had way more time in that than I would ever have. I didn't know. You know,
Yeah.
We're talking days of work there. But good job. That'll be next year's assignment.
Okay, I think we have Audrey wants to say something.
Yes, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, good morning. Yes, so just the usual reminder to have any businesses that you know of that are struggling, reach out to us or let us know and we can reach out. And we also wanted to let everyone know a little bit of good news. The EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and advance in that has been opened up to all businesses. So, you know, opened up a little bit more than it was before. So that's good news. And the PPPL was also expanded to be a little more flexible and broad as of a couple of weeks ago. So just, you know, wanted to let people know there are still funds available in those different programs, and we are still, you know, encouraging any businesses to kind of reach out and try to get their piece of those, especially since they've been, you know, expanded a little bit. So just again, spread the word about that. And if any businesses want help kind of trying to figure out how to get access to those programs, again, just have them reach out to our office. Let's see, I don't think I have any other updates today. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, let's bring in Palmer Energy. We're not going to adjourn the meeting. We'll give another chance for public input after Palmer, but you know, feel free to go if you're done with the business portion of a meeting. I don't expect any decisions today on this information, but it's certainly public information that we want everybody to hear.
Ted? Commissioner, should I begin? Okay, thank you. Good morning. Amy Hoffman and Kirk Mazurk is here as well from Palmer Energy representing the CCAO. We were there back on February 27th and gave a short presentation regarding the solar array. And now we're back in front of you, many months in between due to COVID. So just a recap I'll do for you, and then obviously ask any questions you may have. Our timeline has been extended. Initially, we were looking for a May 1st to have this wrapped up and have the LOIs. Now we're looking obviously down the road to end of July, August timeline. The recap is that we are looking to do a PPA for all facilities and electric aggregation to participate in a solar array. So we're looking at the CCAO. We're also offering this up to the Ohio Municipal League, the clients we have there. And we're looking at, we truly look at this as a long-term hedge of 20 to 25% of your entire load. And with the market where it's at, the low pricing in with our electricity and natural gas, that it's the ideal time to take the hedge and go forward with a savings down the road. The PPA, you will not be, again, the CCAO or the counties won't own the array. The PPA will be we're looking at a 20-year, but it'll be 2 10-year PPA agreements. We will still do the Same process we do now with signing out for pricing and working with multiple suppliers, still going out 2 to 3 years, depending on, you know, what the market is at that time. And that will incorporate the rate of the green, the solar, the 20 to 25%. The best part of this is that it's a fixed rate, so there's no escalator involved. So the rate that comes back once we've got the developers, we have the LOIs back, we know how large an array we will be able to build, then we'll have a very good idea of what the rate of the price will be. And then again, it's a fixed rate. So then when we go out for the RFP, that will all be calculated in when we go out to the different suppliers. We're looking at right now, only looking at inflation, a 4% premium, but as we look into everything that's going on, selling back SRACs, looking at capacity generation, then that will go down significantly, and it's going to be a wash, a zero, and then a positive as we go down the line. There's many things that could come into effect that would cause that to happen more quickly than we anticipate, possibly the change in Washington, fracking, and so forth. Any questions so far? I know we handled this already once, so if you could give me an idea of where you have questions. We have an LOI. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to know where the market is now on electricity, what our longest hedge we can have in the current market, and what effects do you guys anticipate on natural gas well close-ins because of the petroleum market, what that may have effect on the electrical market in the near term and the long term.
Yeah, hi, this is Kirk Mazarek. I'm going to handle those. Here's the fundamental part that you need to think about is, first off, if you look at the curve on the pricing of solar power is at its lowest price point. It really can't get that much lower. That's one reason we think this is a good time to actually go out and consider participating in this program. Second thing, to your point on pricing, I'm just going to use a very generalized example, because an average county building like the one that you're in right now, your price for the generation is probably in the neighborhood of 4.6 cents currently. And with that in mind, without selling any of the RECs or the generation capacity, you're probably looking at 4.8 cents is what your WACOG price would be at that point. Now, once we sell all the RECs and sell the generation capacity, that's where we think it's a zero-sum game, but we won't know until we actually get the pricing back from the suppliers or the developers. And also, the larger we make this deal, the better it's going to be long-term for everybody, because we'll have much better pricing on that. Now, you were asking about pricing for electricity, where we see that going. Fundamentally, pricing for electricity today is generally based on natural gas pricing. You have the price of your coal-fired generation. You also have the price of nuclear generation. There's a price out there at a smaller level, whatever the renewable content is. But what we see right now is we're at depressed natural gas states. I believe that pricing can only go up for a multitude of reasons. And I'll list those off really quickly. First and foremost is, even though the COVID has put a slight delay on us shipping natural gas overseas, we built all these terminals in the last decade to actually bring gas into our country. And now what we're going to be doing is actually selling the gas to other countries, which can long-term, decrease our supply on our continent here. So it's going to be, we think that long-term, that's one factor in why the prices are going to go up. Another factor is there, and Amy touched on it, there, at some point here, and I don't know if it's in the next year 4 years, 8 years, whatever it happens to be, we will have some sort of carbon tax imposed on electricity. We feel very strongly that will happen. So that's going to be one thing that will drive the price of the electricity up. In addition to that, if anybody decides to have significant fracking regulations, and one reason that we're so depressed right now in the pricing is natural gas is easy to get out of the ground. If somebody does impose fracking regulations, that is going to potentially significantly increase the price of natural gas, which then in turn makes the electricity pricing. And if you can lock in, say 20 or 25% of your overall load for your facilities as well as the GovAg, that 20 or 25% is a locked in rate for that amount of time. You're not going to have the carbon tax on that much. If the price of electricity goes up, it's an interesting, instantaneously, you're in money at that point if any of those factors happen. So there's a lot of things in what we're watching that long term, the price of natural gas, which in turn will drive the electricity, will be increasing here, which why we're looking at this as a great financial hedge for the county to participate in that, oh, by the way, has a great green component that many people will take advantage of when they're out for, if you choose to do it in your GovAg portion as well. Now, one thing I do also want to say in the GovAg portion is you're not forcing the people to take this if they don't want to participate in the solar, they can opt out of the solar and just take the regular GovAg price instead of the solar component on there. So that does give them the optionality in those 3-year opt-out periods that we've talked to you many times about. So they're not forced into doing this if they don't want to. Long term, even short term, we think it's a good thing for them to be participating in, but you're not forcing them upon it either, which is an important part of it. Do you have any questions on the pricing aspect of this?
Yeah, I have a question. Do we have a limit on how much we can hedge? You said 20 to 25%. Is that a hard limit? And can you speak to how many other counties are signed into the collective PPA at this point?
Sure. Obviously 2 questions. First questions, I would want to limit it to 25% for the fundamental reason is when the sun is shining is obviously during the summer months. So you're not getting any solar benefit when you're in the evening, late at night, that sort of thing. So you're limited a little bit on size from that perspective. Number one. The number 2 reason we don't want to get too heavy on it is that long term, there could be another breakthrough in the energy equation that we would maybe want to take advantage of at that point. So we'd want to have some left over to go another 20 or 25%, depending on what that technology could be. That's very important to us. I think all of you know by now, we're very conservative at Palmer. Getting too heavy on it at this point, long term, you may look back and say that was the best hedge in the world. Why didn't you do it 100%? Well, you can't go 100% when the sun only shines during the day anyways. So there's a rationality behind that approach that you have to keep it within a certain limit. But you really don't want to get too heavy because we do see some maybe battery technologies 5 or 10 years down the line that will want to take advantage of those opportunities at that point. So that's why it's important from that perspective. Commissioner, what was your other question again?
How many other counties have signed up? Do you have people that have already?
So I'm gonna caveat this saying that obviously with our wonderful last 4 months show that we've had, it's not been as far along as we want it to be right now. We should be out to bid right now with the process. We're not going to do that till obviously later on in the summer. Over 10 counties have actually signed the LOI at this point. I anticipate we'll have another 25 to 30 counties participate in addition to those 10. At least I anticipate a lot of Ohio Municipal League cities participating. I anticipate a lot of government aggregation on that. So our goal here is to have a 200 or 300 megawatt facility. Now, what does that break down into? Each 100 megawatts is roughly 180, 185,000 kilowatt hours a year of electricity produced out of this. So it's a huge amount of energy that we're going to be producing. So we need all the counties participating as much as possible to get to that 200 or 300 megawatt scenario that we're looking at. But I think we're well on our way to have that many people. We've had, I'm trying to think, I think we've only had 2 outright no's at this point in the program.
Commissioners, any other questions? I've got a few more, but.
Keep asking, Shayne.
Okay. Do we have any line of sight as to where this facility might be built?
So,
you know, it's awful sunny in Seneca County.
Yeah. We got to be realistic here for a couple of reasons, okay? First off, if you take that line that goes through Mansfield, you know, Route 30, it's going to be in the southern part of the state. It's just a reality of it. And the fundamental issue on there is, again, I live in Toledo. I spent a lot of time in northern Ohio. We all know that we get some cloud cover from our wonderful lake that we all love too. So when you if you put the facility up here, instantaneously you're losing about, depending on the year, 10 to 20% of the overall sunlight because we're up here. On this size of an array, that's an incredible amount of money. So that's one reason it'll be in the southern part of the state, and that's the majority reason. Second of all, I did want to make this comment that one thing that the CCAO has made a decision on is we are not getting involved in the developer game of where they're placing this facility. Every county commissioner would love to have it in their county, and we gather that. But fundamentally, it's going to go where it's most cost effective. The developer is going to pick that, because you have to remember here, you're not putting any money out of pocket to do this, but some developer is going to have some $200-300 million investment in this. It's going where it makes financial sense, not where somebody wants it to be. I'm just trying to be as, brutal as possible on that. We don't want county commissioners pointing this where it should be. It's not a negative against the commissioners. It's a financial decision. We think there's going to be 40 or 50 counties participating. It's got to be a collective decision on where it makes the most financial sense. And that's going to be in this part of Southern Ohio.
And this program is solar only at this point?
That's correct. And the reason for that is it would be great if wind technology in our eyes made sense. In some respects, it's more expensive right now, but there's a few other issues that people generally don't seem to like those in their backyard, the big wind turbines. You can see them from many miles away. These solar fields literally have a 15-foot fence. So if you're more than a half a mile away, depending on, if it's on a hillside or whatever, you're not even going to see this thing. So that's an important thing to think about. Also, wind turbines, primarily, they spin at night when it's windy out. Well, that's not when you as county commissioners need your energy. You need it in the May through September timeframe during the day when your AC's on and all your facilities. That's generally one strong reason why solar is better than wind. And then we can also go into the migratory birds and bats and all that fun stuff on wind, but that's just a fundamental issue. I think solar has many more key points to it today for the County Commissioners Association from that perspective of what your usage pattern is.
And so what is our next step on this if we want to get back to you and, just kind of walk us through?
Sure.
These projects have a long lead time, I'm sure. So,
yeah, absolutely.
As we would sign a letter of intent, and yep. Then we would get back a rate. And at that point, we would make the decision whether we were moving ahead, and it may be 3 or 4 years down the road before this project's complete.
Actually, not that long, Commissioner. So yes, first and foremost, you'll have to do the letter of intent. And that gives us the opportunity to actually, a developer for this size project's not going to go on a whim and give us a number unless there's some seriousness behind the number. That's what the LOI is for. So we anticipate putting that out to bid late summer, early fall, getting numbers back. We're hoping to have this at least started where we'll have some type of output in the late spring, early summer of 2022. So we're not 4 years out. We're less than 2 years at this point before we're going to be pulling power out of this thing.
So if we sign the letter of intent, when are we obligated?
So you're obligated. So this is the sticking point that I need you all to think about. I don't think it's something that's not able to overcome, but the developer doesn't want to have, we're going to have 40 counties, 40 cities, government aggregation. They don't want to have 150 different agreements. So we need to come to them with one power purchase agreement. So that's why we're working with the Ohio Prosecutors Association to get one agreement with the county commissioners, attorneys, and everything. So once we would come back to you and say, hey, our numbers are right, we think this is a strong thing, this is our estimations on what's going to cost right now to do this, based on the numbers received back, it's a go or no go decision at that point. We'll have to have some input from the counties, but I'll just call it herding cats mentality is getting everybody on board for the same power purchase agreement. I think that's going to be the hardest thing I got to do here, let alone, the pricing I believe is going to come in line to make it a very worthwhile power purchase agreement. It's going to be harder for me to get everybody together on the same page on the actual agreement itself.
Okay, well, I think we're interested in discussing it a little further. I guess at this point, do we have the documentation that we need to review?
I believe you do. If you don't, Stacy, get with Amy, we'll forward it on to you. But I believe you have this already.
I just have a quick question. So listening here, do you have a developer identified? Is there a developer that's been chosen, or will there be 2 or 3 developers vying over this project?
Oh, I would have to guess, Commissioner, this is going to be bigger than, this is going to be national players. We could get anywhere from probably 3 to responses of serious. We might get small developers that just don't have the financial viability to handle it. But I think we're going to have anywhere from 3 to 7 serious responses. No, we do not have a developer picked yet. Absolutely not. Everything at the CCO has to be an RFP process. This will be RFP'd out, no question about it. It's so important on it. We have to do that.
Makes sense. I got it. Thanks.
Yep. Anything else on the solar? And again, Amy and I are always available to come out there, meet in person, or Stacy obviously knows us really well too. If you have any questions, I think she probably knows my cell phone number, so she can get a hold of me.
So just to confirm the process, we would express our intent to participate if we so chose. And then after you were done with your aggregation process, you would take that out to developers through an RFP.
Yep.
And then they would come back to us, the successful bidder, and they would give us a price.
Well, I'll give you the price and the contracts before it, yes, but it'll be a price, and we don't know if it'll be 20 or 25 years. It'll be 2 10-year type of agreements with rollover provisions in them to make this happen. And that's one thing that I'll just comment on there. This doesn't, some commissioners have said, why don't we do a 3-year deal? They're not going to do a $300 million investment for a 3-year deal. It's got to be longer than that. It's just a fundamental thing. We could do a 3-year deal, but the price would be astronomical because they're going to cover the cost in that 3-year versus 20 years. So that's an important part of it. But that's, your process is exactly there. Sign the LOI. We will be, obviously we've worked with you for many years on your electricity. We know what your volumes are. We will recommend to you, and I can talk directly to Stacy about that unless you want to come back to the board on where we think you should fit in, whether it's 20 or 25%, the reasons why. We include those numbers in the actual RFP to this to the developers. The developers give us back a number. We will create obviously a write-up for everybody. And one more thing I do want to make certain that you understand. It's not just Mark and I up in Toledo making this decision. We've got the CCAO, we've got the CCO Energy Committee, and then also for this special deal, because it's so much construction related, We have Paul Toth, who ran the Toledo Port Authority for 20 years. He's on the selection committee. We also have a commissioner close to you guys, Russ Zimmerman, who worked for Romanoff Electric, who has built these things. He's on this committee, as well as Joe Lazar, who worked for 20 years for Mosier Construction. He's on the committee to help make these construction decisions and the contractual decisions before you, but we'd still come back to you. And obviously, if the price is out of whack, we're not really going to have a second discussion. I don't believe that's going to be the case, or we wouldn't be, wasting everybody's time here. We feel very strongly that our number will be better than what we've seen out there already, which I believe everybody would sign at the numbers that we've seen out there already.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Well, I think our intent will be to, put this on the agenda and have a discussion amongst ourselves and get back to you, within the month.
Perfect.
I'm sure that, we'll get some feedback from, folks. And, I think this is, it's a business transaction. Should we hedge? One of the answers I don't have is how long can we hedge now with natural gas or other electricity? Are we still in the 3 or 4 year range?
That's usually where we're at, Commissioner. And it's when you're doing regular power purchase agreements, we've been going 2 to 3 years at this point.
Right.
You could theoretically go longer than that, but we believe that the suppliers start putting some fluff in there to protect themselves, so to speak. So we don't think it's a valid opportunity to go out long. If I could get you your prices right now for 25 years, the prices you're paying right now, I'd be all over it. I think you guys would be all over it. This is an avenue for us to take a piece out at those prices. We just can't do it right now for that length of time. As natural gas, same type deal. We usually go out 2 to 3 years on your basis pricing with the natural gas suppliers. And then we, depending on what we do with that energy committee, hedge out certain volumes of those long-term hedges as well. We don't go longer than 2 or 3 years historically, though.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for your work on this. I know it's a labor of love and you guys are doing a great job with it. I appreciate it. I appreciate CCAO giving you the license to come and talk to us about this because, we owe it to future commissioners to fix as much cost as we can. And we owe it to future generations to be as green as we can. So I think those are 2 compelling reasons to continue to entertain this.
Great. Well, thank you for your time today.
All right. Do we see any other public comments today? I don't see any. So we will adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.